But the Albanese government isn't just under attack from Conservatives on the right on The Voice and over global warming. There's also a very troubling revolt on its left, which I keep getting told, it's not much deal, don't forget about it. But with Labor's National Conference coming up next week, I don't know. About 40 local Labor branches oppose our AUKUS submarines deal with the US and Britain. And activists are determined to have a debate at the National Conference next week, despite attempts to shut it down, keep a veneer of unity there. Joining me is the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan, The Australian. Greg, always great to talk to you, but this seems extraordinary that so many Labor branches want to kill off our latest submarines deal, leaving us even more defenceless against China.
Well, that's right, Andrew. I think a few things are coming together. Paul Keating is still regarded as a legend by some of the Labor Party faithful. There's no doubt that those people who are influenced by China are motivated in this debate. China is acting very aggressively to hurt AUKUS and to stymie AUKUS. And of course, the left traditionally hates America. But the left is actually doing Albo a favour here if he has the wit to grasp it. Albo should bring this debate on at National Conference, and he should get his defence and foreign ministers to stand on the floor and flay the left with arguments in principle in favour of AUKUS. I remember when Bob Hawke had a 77% approval rating in this country, and I was covering the ALP National Conference in Canberra, must have been in the mid-80s, and there was a big demonstration of left-wingers against Hawke, and there was a whole heap of women lying on the ground singing, "We are gentle, angry women and we're fighting for our lives," or something. Now, Hawke trod all over them, walked into the conference, and he said, "You know what? I reckon we'll get the other 23% now." Now, that is what a Labor leader does. I mean, he took them on in argument and he won.
Remind you that street theatre of the time. Oh my God. Anyway, look, that's extraordinary enough. But the other thing here, bringing the two themes together, really, I was struck by one of the government's advisors on The Voice, artist Sally Scales. She told an event at the Australian National University, the Voices and Aborigines generally should also be consulted on these nuclear subs. Now, frankly, Greg, why an artist is on the referendum working group on this on this Voice idea absolutely beats me. But what about her argument that, the Voice should be consulted on these things?
Well, I think that'll happen if we get a voice. There's no doubt about it. Everything that the government says is scaremongering and alarmism, and you're a despicable person if you raise it, is actually being promulgated by the activists in the Aboriginal cause. Now, like all of us, I have nothing but love for Australian Aborigines and want them to prosper, but they won't prosper through The Voice. The activist class which runs this thing, which is all financed by government. People say this bubbled up from the bottom. No, it didn't. Governments handed out millions and millions and millions of dollars to produce a phony activism. I mean, you give me $100 million and I'll create a movement for anything you like. But there's no doubt at all, defence bureaucrats are already wondering, quite seriously, what will happen when The Voice says we don't want nuclear reactors in the ports on our lands, or we don't want support activity for nuclear powered submarines on our lands. And it won't only be nuclear. They might say we don't want, Air Force planes conducting test activity for the Air Force over our lands. Now, in reality, I think any government would override The Voice in that circumstance, but that is a recipe for division and paralysis, which is completely crazy because there's no need for it. It means nothing. It represents nothing. It will represent a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of actual real people, and our democracy already is replete with every opportunity to make your sentiments heard. But there's no doubt The Voice will become very powerful in these debates. It will be a rent-seeking operation where it will say, well, we don't want the military here, but of course, if you pay us $100 million, we can probably overcome our conscience. This is just a disastrous recipe.
Yes. Oh, Greg, you're too right. And we're being snowed about just how much we'll have to say. Greg Sheridan, thank you so much indeed for your time. Really appreciate it.